trying to get more information on the body was that there's been no report on its activities. So as a result, we don't know what activities the appeals body has been busy with during its term of office. What has compounded that problem is that there's been no mention of the body and its activities in at least the last two annual reports of the Department of Military Veterans. And and I'm also not too sure if the ex-combatants and soldiers out there know about its existence. And so we are meeting with them for the first time. And they are a crucial body in the chain in that when an applicant is aggrieved, wrongly or rightly, he or she has a right of recourse, may take the matter on appeal. And if you are still not happy with the decision of the appeals board, you may then take it on review. In other words, you may approach the court to have the decision of the appeals board set aside. They somehow perform a quasi-judicial function. So colleagues, so this is the board we're meeting today. So let me just deal with the apologies, Brian. You said the meeting is correct, and I've noted the apology from the Honorable Brian. And can you report other apologies over to you, Brian?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I only have two apologies. That is the apology of the Minister, Mapisa Nagola. She's unable to attend due to a cabinet meeting that is sitting, as well as the apology of General Olomisa. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. Those are the two apologies for today. Might get an indication if the Deputy Minister has joined the meeting?
Chair, good morning, and committee members, good morning. I am in attendance, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yes, I wanted to welcome you, DM. You are welcome to the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yes. All right. I heard that the chair of the appeals board is in the meeting. Might I get an indication of his presence? Baba Mavuso?
Honorable Chair, this is Mavuso speaking. I am in the meeting. I need to apologize that I'm lying in bed because for the best part of this year, I have been receiving medical attention for a pinched nerve. I have also therefore requested if the chair would permit that Ms. Dlamini leads the discussions, but I will be in full participation and answer any questions that may be asked should the other member refer the subject to me. But thirdly, I would like to apologize that because of my indisposition for most of this year, I haven't quite, I should have edited the report that has come before this committee. I am very comfortable with the content, as are other board members, but the language at a certain time will need refinement. I'm extremely sorry about this. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Bamavuso. We thank you for honoring the meeting, given that the situation that you are in. We want to wish you a speedy recovery. Thank you so much.
Thank you
All right.
very much.
Thanks, Bamafus. All right, colleagues, without further ado, let me invite the Deputy Minister to give us his remarks, and then invite whoever is taking us through the report. Over to you, Deputy.
Chair and honorable members of the committee, good morning. Chair, as you have already, remarked, the Military Veterans Appeal Board is appearing before the Portfolio Committee of Parliament for the first time as things are, since it was established in the 2015. It is, as everyone can appreciate, a golden opportunity for the Oversight Committee to familiarize itself with the business of the Military Veterans Appeal Board. Without much ado, Chair, I should invite the presenter on behalf of the board members to take over and take the committee through the report, and I will come in as and when there is a need to expedite our discussion this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, DM. I understand is Nomusa Dlamini who's going to present, DM?
Yes.
Okay. May I invite Ms. Dlamini to introduce the board members who are present, and then launch into the presentation.
Good morning, members of the honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, Deputy Minister, and our Chair of the Appeal Board. Thank you for inviting us this morning to give this presentation. I am not sure in terms of our members who else is in attendance. I would think I will allow them to just introduce themselves.
Okay. Yes, any indication?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Honorable DM. My surname is Hartenberg. I'm a member of the Military Veterans Appeal Board.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hartenberg. Any other? All right, Mr. Dlamini, I
With
think
your
that...
permission, Chair.
Yes, sir.
I noticed before we started that one of the board members was trying to log in and somehow finding it difficult. I don't know who is responsible for facilitating this access, but I know he's been trying to come in.
Okay. Thank you so much. Brian, can we... who's our IT for today?
Chair, we have Sharon Fortain. She is assisting us.
She's assisting us.
Yes.
Sharon?
If Chair, the chairperson can just assist by forwarding me the contacts of the person of the board member that is trying to access, so that I can assist them.
Okay. Please, chair or any other member of the board or staff of the board, if you may assist with the contact details of the colleague who is struggling to join the meeting, so that he could be contacted and assisted to join the meeting. All right. Whilst that is being taken care of, let me then invite Ms. Dlamini to take us through the presentation.
Thank you, Chairperson. I will therefore start with the presentation. I just want to mention that today I am using my phone, so I don't have the presentation that you may be having, but I will talk through the presentation that I have.
Okay, just I think we can assist you, Ms. Lamini. Brian, can you assist with flighting the presentation? Brian or our IT specialist? Peter, Daniels. Hello, Brian.
Hello, Chair.
Yes, Peter, do you have the presentation with you?
I'll just look it up, Chair.
Yes, yes. If you could assist, I think Brian has just stepped out to assist a member who's trying to, member of the board who's trying to join the meeting.
Oh God, there's too many things coming through at the moment.
Sharon, what's the problem now?
I'm trying to help you guys.
All right.
Which presentation would you like?
Nomsa, which presentation you want it beamed up first? Ms. Lamini?
Yes, yes, Chair.
I understand there are two presentations. Which one would you want beamed up? Beamed on the screen?
There are two presentations.
Um,
The one, Charmaine, our secretariat submitted the latest presentation, I think yesterday around 2.
Okay.
So the team should be having the presentation.
Sharon, that is not the one. That's not the one. That's our internal document produced by the researcher. Just check again. All right, check again. Yes. Ms. Lamini, is this the one, eh?
No, I'm not seeing anything.
You're not seeing
No.
anything from the side?
Oh, no, no, let me see. I think it is. No, as long as it's what the secretariat submitted yesterday, it will be it.
Okay. What is the date of submission on your inbox, Sharon? All right. No, I mean, if it is not the one.
Let me check. I'll be with you now.
Okay, sure.
I'm sorry, Chair.
Yes, Brian.
The document that Sharon is flighting is the correct document, yes.
Okay, that's fine. All right. So we're on the correct document. All right. Nomsa, you may then take us through what you need to do, because we're not, you are not seeing the presentation. If you want our IT to move to the second slide, please indicate.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, in the phone, I think I can't see it right. But in any case, there is no much deviation from the report that I have with me.
Okay.
So I think I will just indicate by way of saying the slide number that I am at.
The slide number.
So that
okay.
it becomes, so that I lead the flighting of the slides.
Yes, you have basically, your presentation has 12 slides, eh? All right, you may take us through.
Thank you very much, Chair. We will start then at slide number 1, presentation outline. Okay, I'd just like to, as a way of opening, again, thank the members of the Portfolio Committee for presenting us this opportunity to take you through the work of the Appeal Board. As the Appeal Board, we have been established in terms of Section 19 of the Military Veterans Act number 18 of 2011 in 2015, June. So we will now talk, therefore, about our establishment, the powers and duties of the board. We'll talk about our report to date. We'll highlight our challenges in terms of our working relationship with the DMV. We will suggest the way forward. Slide 2. The mandate that we have, as I have already said, that we get our mandate from the Military Veterans Act of 2011. Now, we are tasked with a responsibility to consider any appeal that is lodged by a military veteran against any decision taken by the department in terms of the act, which adversely affects the rights of that military veteran. We also consider any question of law relating to military veterans that is referred to it by the minister or the director general. We also advise the minister or the DG regarding any legal matter related to military veterans, which the minister or the director general refers to it. Part A, the next slide, in terms of our establishment and the appointment of members, as I have already said, that the board was established in 2015. Now, the board has 5 members. We have our chairperson, Mr. Mavuso Msimang, who is in attendance today. And also we have Advocate Mashudu. We also have Mr. Ferdi Hazenbeck, who is an attorney, practicing attorney. We also have Mr. Cyril Morolo, who is a member, who also comes from a legal background, and then myself. We have a secretariat, which is a one-person office, but we do have people who are seconded to that office from time to time. I must mention also here that in terms of the office of the secretariat, I'm going to expand to highlight what exactly that office is entailing. In terms of the next slide, Part B, powers and duties of the appeal board. We derive our mandate from Section 20 of the Act, and in that section also, this is where the Act tells us to consider any appeal that is lodged by a military veteran against any decision taken by the official of the department that is adversely affecting the rights of that military veteran. I must say also that when we look into the Act doing our job, we also conform with the prescripts of the Constitution, Section 33, read together with the Promotion of Administrative Justice Act. We also apply any applicable case law in terms of reaching the decision that we are taking. As well, in terms of our rules and procedures, the majority decision is what prevails in the debates and the arguments that we would have when entertaining any appeal that is before the board. As well, in terms of our procedure and rules, depending on the severity of the case and the relevance, therefore, we ensure that we summon to the appeal board the applicant or the appellant. And because of the PAJA as well, we ensure that we want to hear all the sides of all the sides of the stories, meaning the other party as well need to be heard. So we also summon the respondent, in this case being the Department of Military Veteran, so that we can be able to look at both sides of the story to reach our decision. Most of the appeals that will come in will be emanating from Section 5 of the Act that lists the benefits that the military veteran has, the benefits which the military veteran would have applied to the department to gain access to. and then they would have had an adverse response from the department, then they would lodge an appeal with us. So also I must mention that even though the issue of being enlisted in the database of the military veterans is not part of Section 5, but the fact that for you to be able to access the benefits, you have to be a military veteran and you have to be in the database of the department. So we find that the prospective, if I might say, military veteran would apply to the appeal board to say, I have requested to be included in the database, but I have been rejected. So because of Section 1A, B, and C of the Act, we would also entertain such appeals. We will go to the next slide, Part C. So in this Part C here, I want to highlight that when we were established in 2015, we did not immediately start working on the appeals. We only started working on the appeals in 2016. In the year of 2015, we saw it prudent that we should first develop infrastructure for our office, meaning that we had to really study the Act so that we deepen our understanding of what the Act entails, because this is a very important piece of legislation that has to do with our work. Can we please go back to the slide, not that one that you have there. The slide that talks about the first year since our inception, not the one that has the charts, please. Okay. Then we had to make sure then that we gain our understanding, a deeper understanding in the Act, and also we developed our rules and procedures that we're going to dictate how we are supposed to approach our work. We also developed the terms of reference. We worked on developing the logo that you see there in this slide. We also developed an appeals application form that the appellants are using in lodging an appeal with us. In terms of communicating with the appellants or the military veterans, we also saw it fit to develop an appeal board handouts. These handouts actually are our ways of making the military veterans know about the existence of the appeal board and how we work. So such will have, for instance, Q&As, normally questions that would be asked by the military veterans, and we provide answers so that they would get to understand and know us better, so that they can be able to interact with us. I will now go to the gist of our work, which is in Part C of the slide there. Our report to date will be thus. So since 2016 then to date, we have received 463 appeals. I must hasten to mention that this number, as far as we are concerned, is not a true reflection of the desire of military veterans who would want to have their cases heard by the appeal board, who may not be finding joy with the response they are receiving in terms of their applications to the military veterans. So this case will stand like this. This number will stand like this because it's not all the military veterans out there who know about the existence of the appeal board. In as much as the chairperson has, in his introduction, stated that the work of the appeal board has not been put before the portfolio committee and also in the reports that are submitted. So this is the same case then with the military veterans. So the ones that would know about our existence are the ones, through the word of mouth, when we hear the appeals, we would ask other military veterans to share with their counterparts about the work that we're doing. So now 463 appeals we have received to date. Out of those, we have concluded 160 cases. So with these ones, the outcomes have been shared both with the appellants and with the respondents. Pending cases that we have, the number there is 303. And I must mention that this number may seem very huge, but actually 212 out of the 303. This is a case of a class act that is lodged by the members who are employees of PRASA. So we will remove then the 212 out of that. And then you find that 56 cases are cases that already have undergone pre-hearings, and also some are awaiting hearings. So in essence, we only have 35 new cases that we have not dealt with. Otherwise, the rest of the other cases are cases that we have already attended to. We will go to the next slide. This one will break down the number now that we have. We have said that the 212 come from PRASA. So out of the rest, we find that 79 cases have to do with the education support, where you find that the military veterans are not happy with the decision of the department not to grant them access to education support, especially for their beneficiaries or for their children. And then we have 69 cases where the department have not granted the wish of the military veteran to be granted housing. We have 54 cases where the department have rejected the request of a military veteran to be included in the database so that they can access benefits as per Section 5. We have 2 cases where military veterans are not happy with the result that they got, that they cannot be afforded burial support. We also have 15 cases where the rejection of the application for SRD, which is support for stress relief, I think, people who are in distress, yeah. Then we have 21 cases of compensation, 9 cases of skills development, and 2 cases of medical support. Now, continuing with our report, next slide. Other duties that we are busy with besides those that I have spoken about, we offer legal opinions as and when required by the Department of the Military Veterans. We also input into the amendment of the Military Veterans Bill. Now that I'm sure the members, the honorable members of the Portfolio Committee would be aware that right now we are busy with reviewing the Military Veterans Act. So the appeal board is part of the committee that is composed of the appeal board, the SANVA, and the advisory council to make inputs into the Military Veterans Bill. We also consider any question of law relating to military veterans referred to it by the Minister or the Director General. This, for instance, we have made such in terms of the NGC of SANVA that said, and there were queries about the elections that happened there. So the Military Veterans Appeal Board had to advise the Minister. So this is the work that we have also done. Now, having spoken about the work that the Military Veterans Appeal Board has done to this up to date, I would want to go to part D, the next slide, that talks about the challenges on our working relationship with the DMV. Well, I think here I would just like to start with the fact that it is not the desire of the appeal board to hear cases by the appellants and not involve the respondent in terms of them putting their side of the story so that we can get a better understanding of why they have reached such a decision. We have been faced with a challenge where when convening our appeal hearings, we would send communication and interact with the department to invite them to come and indulge us in terms of their side of the story. But what we've been finding is that the department would not respond as such. We tried initially, to delay our cases, to defer the sitting of the appeal board so that we can make sure that the department would find space to come in and present their case. But we realized as time went on that actually we are jeopardizing the already disadvantaged position of the military veteran by continuously postponing the cases to wait for the DMV. So at that point, then we even sent a communication to say, now we're going to proceed with the hearing of the cases with or without the department, because this is unfair to the appellants. So this is the challenge that we've been hearing then, because this has forced us to actually make default judgments to an extent that at other instances, when you go back and hear the side of the department, you find that actually they were correct to reject such an appeal or such a request. But for the fact that they did not give us that benefit, we find that we are forced to take default, to make a default judgment. In terms of the budget, this is a big one for us because there is no office that can run without a budget. We have made our plans, our budgetary requirements, our communication strategy, and so on to the department, and we have had meetings with the department as well, so that they can understand where we're coming from, how it is important for them to provide us the budget and things that we need. I must say that we would get promises that this is going to be sorted, we are going to get what we need, but time will go. But we will find ourselves having no budget and have to do with whatever to be able to ensure that the work of the appeal board continues. Such example, for instance, is the very one that I spoke about in the beginning, the issue of communicating with the military veterans so that they can know about our existence, as well as so that they can be able to take advantage of the existence of the appeal board and ensure that the Constitution, in terms of the Bill of Rights and Section 5 of this Act, is really also accessible to them. Now the problem is that therefore we find that there is no budget for us to be able to go on road shows and do this work. And at the same time, even the office of the secretariat, do not have very essential tools that they need so that they can be able to interact and make this work of the appeal board to be successful. The issue of the tools of trade, indeed, just laptops we do not have very vital. You have said it, Honorable Chair, that indeed our decisions can be reviewed by the court of law. Now, when the court will be looking at our decisions, they will want a record of proceedings. And it will not be sufficient to provide minutes that were taken in the meeting, but we would have also to provide recording of the proceedings. So these are some of the things that are very essential for our work that we need for the department to be able to either procure for us or give us budget so that we can procure for ourselves. But neither of the two are happening. Now, also we have a problem, yes, of the data bundles. Even right now, we're supposed to be working online, and besides, because of the fact that we are not full-time in the office of the appeal board, we rely mostly on working after our own jobs, after hours, and so on, obviously meaning that we have to work from home and we have to work using the laptops and data bundles and data and whatever. But the department is not providing these things. We have made our desire to be heard. We have submitted whatever that needed to be submitted, but all we get is promises. It will appear as petty that we're talking about petty cash, but this is vital for us because at the end of the day, we have to dig down our own pockets as members of the appeal board to reach out to military veterans who come to the office to lodge their appeal or who would come for their appeal hearings. But unfortunately, they don't even have money to go back home because even the money that they have is the money that they have borrowed to be able to reach our offices. Because we must understand that we're here dealing with indigent people who are, some of them destitute, who are impoverished, who are unemployed, who have people that they are supposed to be looking after when actually they are even themselves are not able to look after themselves. And these are the people who have fought and sacrificed their youth to be able to bring about the democracy that we have today. So it is really paining for us to see them coming to our offices and not being able to go back home. And besides even that, not even have anything to eat. And we have to dig down our own pockets to ensure that we buy them something so that they can be able to have maybe that meal. So these things may appear petty, honestly speaking, to be presented at the level of the portfolio committee, but these are the realities of the military veterans on the ground. Now, the issue that we can also highlight is that the fact that we have not gotten this support, we realize that we cannot allow the situation to be the way it is, because if we are going to fail to do what the Act and the Constitution enjoins us to do, we would actually be failing people who are mostly in need of their services. So we have taken our own initiatives to make sure that we reach out to the military veterans, to make sure that we do whatever that we can in our ability as individuals. We have approached radio stations, for instance, community radio stations like Ikwekwezi FM, like the Social FM. Our chairperson was actually also trying to talk to SABC to see that we can get a slot and be able to communicate our existence and how the appeal board works to our stakeholders who are the military veterans. We managed actually to do that with the Social and the Ikwekwezi FM. And the response that we got from the military veterans, you could see that actually this is the type of a body they are longing for, because they can see that this body is what will be able to sort their issues. Now, I will just mention, I think, as a by the way, if I may, the issue that even the payments of the appeal board members after they have done their work is not coming as it should. Members will submit their claims, but they would wait for months before any payment will be made. And it's really embarrassing and demeaning to be following up about, now I have worked, can I please get paid? But despite those things, we know that what is actually the main object and the main issue in this whole thing is about giving this service to the military veterans. So while we are busy, engaging on these issues and fighting these battles, the work is continuing unabated. I must, though, also mention that we have had discussions and engagements since General Mgwebi, who is the acting Director General of the DMV right now, since he has come in and taken that position, we have had engagements with his office, which actually was not the same with the previous DGs who were there, because the ones that were there previously did not even want to acknowledge our existence. But in any case, with General Mgwebi, we have been able to engage. And as a result, he also came with intervention to say there has to be a nodal person who the appeal board is going to liaise directly with, who's going to be a conduit for the appeal board to communicate to and fro between the appeal board and the DMV. Now, since that initiative has been in place, it has worked, but to a certain extent, really, because even though the nodal person would communicate, again, the challenge that we have is that in terms of the hearings and the pre-hearings, you will find that indeed the officials will come to the meeting, but it will be junior officials. When actually we've been making appeals that it has to be senior people, because senior people will be able to take decisions and we'd be able to give they be able to answer the questions that we have. But when you have a junior person who are not able to give you the information that you need, it's actually time not well spent. And we have also, in terms of the next slide, in terms of the way forward, the minister had already convened a workshop because she saw it very necessary that all the structures that report to her at that point in time, the appeal board, the advisory council, SANVA, the DMV itself, we have to have a workshop so that we clarify our mandates. And also we know, how we assist each other and so on. So such workshop did happen, and there was supposed to be also a continuation of such workshop. And this, we believe that if it can continue like that, we will find less problems, because really we would be able amongst ourselves to sort issues as they come. And we have also interacted with the deputy minister, and we have agreed that actually, even though the DMV would be the one, because of the treasury regulations, they are the ones who have our budget. But we would really desire a situation where there's independence and accountability for the budget of the AP. And the deputy minister is actually in favor of this, and we agree with this way forward. We have also agreed that we will be having a bi-monthly meeting with the acting DG, so that all these issues can be sorted without them being escalated to the ministerial level, because we do not believe actually that these issues are supposed to be dealt at this level. So also we have agreed with the deputy minister that we're going to have a quarterly meeting as a standing one with him, so that all issues that that we are not able to sort at the administrative level, he can be able also to intervene. And besides that as well, it would be good for the deputy minister to know the type of cases that we're dealing with, so that even if the matters go to court at that level, the minister would be aware of what is happening. Yes, I think at this point, I would like to pause for, in terms of sorry. At this point, I would like to pause then. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lamini, for the presentation. May I check if there is any addition or additional comments from the other board members? Let me check that.
Chair, Honorable
Yes,
Chair, thank you very much. I have,
yes,
I have nothing to add.
You have nothing to add?
Yes,
okay.
sir.
Thank you so much. All right, colleagues. No, thank you so much for that. Now, Minister, Deputy Minister, do you want to make a comment before I open the matter up for discussion? Deputy Minister.
Chair, thank you very much. Let me, Chair, allow the committee to interact with the presentation, with the report. I will come in to make comments with respect or on a few, one or two areas that the presentation has touched on, and maybe also on some of the observations that committee members may make. At this point, I would defer to the committee to engage with the presentation. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you so much, DM. I'm just looking on the screen to check if there's any, if I can see a hand on the thing. Okay, so because the hand, I don't see the hands electronically, I will then recognize them manually. All right, let me just check who would want to make a comment.
Shalem.
Okay, Shalembe, right, and then number two.
Sure.
Yes, there's Alexander, Miss Bukes,
Yeah.
right. Number three.
Modise.
Modise. Number four. Okay, that will be my first round. All right. All right, colleagues, I will take these three colleagues in the following order. I will start with Shelembe, then Bukes, and then Modise. Bob Shelembe.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Yeah, today I think one is dealing with a very, very, very important and sensitive, issues in our agenda. Because Chairperson, if we deal with the board that is to assist the indigenous people, one should be, applying, his mind highly. In terms, Chairperson, of Section 21, members of the Appeals Board are appointed by the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans in consultation with the association. Chairperson, sorry that, the question might be difficult maybe for the Deputy Minister here, because if you speak of the association, you speak of, the South African National Military Veterans Association, whereas Chairperson, also on the 4th of September 2018, the Minister of Defense approved a request from the South African Cape Corps military veterans to be regarded as an official organization. Now, if we look to the Act now, it speaks of one association. I think maybe if that can be clarified, because once you put the association, you are now saying now the letter that was approved by the minister should be taken into cognizance. Chairperson, I believe, a new vote has been established in the department where the DM is responsible. Now, if the Act is saying the members of the appeals board are appointed by the minister, what is going to happen now in that case where the deputy minister is responsible for the military veterans department? Who will be responsible to appoint the members to serve, on that board? Is it still going to be the minister or the deputy minister on that? Three, Chairperson, the letter, appointing members to serve in the board, is dated the 15th of June 2015. We are now on the 24th of June 2020. Now I'm just checking now to the legality of the committee, whether the committee is still legitimate to take any decision. If the committee has not been reappointed by the minister by now, what arrangements are being done to ensure that there is a compliance to the Military Veterans Act as required? Chairperson, another thing, if one look, on Section 21, Clause 4 says a member of a board may hold office for a period not exceeding 5 years. But here the minister signed the appointment, on that date. I'm just checking if the members who are in the board by now are still, like as I said before. Chairperson, one thing, that is worrying now, they say, when, the appeals board is appealing for, a budget or funds, it seems here the appeals board is given a mandate without funding, because now it's like now they must go and beg. But how come that is from 2015 to date, the appeals board is not, given adequate funds to run, its affairs? I've listened, when the presenter was saying they are dealing with the indigenous people. Yes, of course, if you look at a person looking for the benefits that are entitled to that, person, he is going a process of appealing, and what emanates from there is that undue delays for these indigenous, people to get, what they are entitled to. So what is the deputy minister going to do? Because I'm telling you, the consequences of this is leading to unnecessary, like say, you get the appellant while waiting for that, is without food. Any sickness can affect that person. Chairperson, when it comes to the tools of trade, it's very, very, embarrassing that, the office is not having those requirements as required. Even the road shows, they cannot do it because of the unfunded mandate to them. I think that question now, what is the DM going to do? Because the complaint is more to the department that the appeals board has been trying hard to meet with, the department. But in those meetings, you'll find that only junior staff that, are sent by the department, whereas those junior staff cannot, take a decision on behalf of the senior management. What is the DM going to do? It seems if the DM is not doing anything in this, we will be having that problem time and again. Look, 11 benefits for the military veterans that are entitled, but are not being, done accordingly. But I'm sorry that more questions will be directed to the DM, because it seems he is the only person now to assist the appeals board in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sholembe. May I invite Ms. Beckers? I also
Thank you,
note,
Chair. Can you hear me, Chair?
yes, I do. May I also note the presence of the, sorry, Ms. Speakers. May I also note the presence of the the acting Director General, Mkwebi. Welcome, General Retired Mkwebi.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you so much. Ms. Speakers.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, my first question is on the cases that they currently have. Is it mostly from certain provinces or does it include all provinces? For example, Chair, the 69 cases of housing, are there any cases of the Northern Cape? And what is the reason for not finalizing the cases? Because I got inquiries from your Pixley Kaseme region, especially in your Priska Douglas, Siatemba, and Sianuma. Is it outstanding documents or are they not on the database? It's my first question, Chair. The second one is, one of your recommendations is that is quarterly meetings. So what is the current situation? Are there a delegated official in the department who work with the board? What are the lines of communication? Are there monitoring measures for functioning of the board? And are there timelines for reporting? Then, Chair, we appreciate the initiative and acknowledge the progressiveness of the board to reach out. But listening to the list of radios, maybe it was just an example, but did they ever have programs on radios in like your Northern Cape, for example, your Radio Kabusna, your Radio Kurara, and your Radio Namakwa? And also looking to the language, because most people in the Northern Cape are speaking Afrikaans, so they must look into that also. And then, Chair, did they ever submit a plan to the department for engagements and roadshows in provinces? Not to hear follow up on appeals, but to engage and inform the veterans. And when did they submit the plan to the department? And what was the response of the department? My last one, Chair, is that what they say is that for you to benefit, you must be part of the, or what plans or processes can they recommend to speed up the process of finalizing the capturing for the data? Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, thank you so much, Ms. Speakers. Ms. Modise.
Thank you so much, Chair. I think firstly mine is to put a request to the Deputy Minister to zoom in the issue of finances or the budgets for the appeals board. I think we cannot emphasize further that surely these challenges are uncalled for. We cannot expect the board to function effectively if they really face such serious budget or financial constraints. Having had said that, Chair, I just also want to check what other mechanisms outside of the fact that they have financial challenges, but what other mechanisms does the appeals board have in place to make sure that they reach out to the military veterans in different areas where they may be, outside of only letting them come to them in their offices? Do they have any other mechanisms that they utilize to make sure that they at least go to various or different areas where the military veterans may be, in order to ensure that they at least are able to have a speedy implementations of the decisions that as a board they make? Also, Chair, she has also mentioned that they also provide some legal opinions or advices or so. And the Military Veterans Act does state that the board may provide the required legal advice. I just want to check that what capacity does the board possesses in order for them to be able to provide those legal advices. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. Those are the three questions so far. And may I now invite, I think, colleagues, the three questions, I have a set of questions that only the DM can answer and no one else. I'll leave those to the DM. And we also have a set that of questions that speak to the department. The department is here represented by Acting General Mkweli. Only him can answer that set. We also have a set that will be dealt with by the Ms. Dlamini and the team. Maybe let me just start with Mavuso, Mr. Mavuso first, just to check if he would want to make a comment on the questions, and then move to Nomusa Dlamini, and then to General Mgwebi, and then take the Deputy Minister as the last person to comment on the questions. Let me start with you, Bob Mavus.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Covering all the questions that have been asked, it is actually true that we are virtually working on an unfunded mandate. Attempts to get a budget. We were asked to provide a budget and submit it to the department. We did, but it really was ignored. So we do operate on a shoestring, funding. Also, I want to say that there is an attitude that's really a little difficult to understand. When we wanted to go out to visit places where the military veterans live in provinces, the frustration is that one of the senior people in the department advised us to make sure that we get to know when the department itself would be going to those areas, because they didn't have money. We must understand that money is very scarce. So it kind of responds to the question asked by Ms. Modisia about, do we also take the trouble to go to visit those places? Somebody may answer that question more substantially, because we have made visits to a number of provinces, but it will always be after a fair bit of a struggle. Maybe I'll end there. If there are any direct questions, I'll be happy, Chair, if you allow it to end there.
Thank you so much, Bob Mafuso. Ms. Dlamini?
Thank you, Chair. I would add to what my chairperson has said. To say yes, it would be after such a struggle, but that also would not be necessarily about the road shows. It would be about the hearings and the pre-hearings, because if the military veterans of, for instance, the Eastern Cape are that large, so we would fight our way to say it would not make sense for them to come here. We are a few. It would be better for us to go that side. So we would also then utilize the hearings and the pre-hearings to tell those who are coming to hear their cases to go tell other people that we are around. They can come and lodge their appeals, so that when we go back to the office, we also have those with us. So it's, we find ways of maneuvering the situation. Now, just to look at other questions that were asked, yes, in terms of the legal capacity, the capacity that we have in terms of legal opinion that we have to give to the department and also to the minister, we do have in our office, as I have introduced the members in the beginning, we have one practicing attorney and one practicing advocate, and we have one member who is also from the legal fraternity. So we are well capacitated in terms of dealing with these issues. Now, in terms of how do we, I think we have answered that one on how do we reach out. We also use WhatsApp, because we also belong in various groups of WhatsApps. But as I was saying, even in the beginning, it's the word of mouth that we're mostly using. And the initiative of going to the radio, remember, because we're not paying them anything. So this is a favor that we're asking from them. So the ones that will accede to our request, then we will go and avail ourselves to be able to publicize our existence to the military veterans. In case of the question about the database and so on, I think that question is the question of the DMV, because we're only dealing with appeals when the DMV has rejected a person to be part of the database. And also the finalization of cases, it's the DMV as well there, because ours is only to deal with whatever the rejection the DMV has made. Now the quarterly meetings with the DM has just come in. So we have agreed then with the DM that this is how our situation is going to be. Yes, indeed, we feel as the appeal board, we feel very strong about this. As the member speaking about veterans in the Northern Cape, there are also veterans in the far-flung places of KZN, of the Eastern Cape, places that are unreachable. Those that we cannot reach really, because if we had the means, we have the passion, we have the commitment, but the means that we have go as far as we can. So if we had to, for instance, do our broadcasting for members who are African speaking, we do have a member in our team who can take that, because as well, we have various attributes, I don't know the right word to use, but for different circumstances, we have different members who can handle such circumstances. I think I have answered all the questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. General, I'm sure you have identified the questions that you are within your realm and that only you can deal with. Let me invite you to deal with those.
Thanks, Chair, and good morning, Chair. And my apologies for connecting late. It took me some time to succeed. And I only came in and managed to pick up the last 3 questions. I'm not quite sure whether then there were other questions before the last 3 questions. Now the issue, Chair.
Deal with those that you were able to hear. We'll come back to you should it becomes necessary to deal with others. Thanks.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, the first part is the support by the department to the appeals board. In terms of secretariat, we've got 1 individual at a level of an assistant director and 2 secondary officials. This is at least what we have provided. And in terms of tools of trade, we have at least attempted, in my understanding, to provide some cell phones and iPads. This is what then I've got sense of. Yes, there might be probably challenges with the issue of the airtime and data, but we need to look at that as a department. The issue of delegated official, with the engagement with the chair of the appeals board, then the department decided to make the director legal in the department as a nodal point in handling all the cases coming from the appeals board, so that they can be processed and redirected within the department. For the pre-hearings, we've got an assistant director coming from legal who does attend the pre-hearings, to have a sense of what's taking place and be able again for policy direction to take that to the different branches and nets. Yes, I think it is true. I would confirm what the board is saying as a concern. The level of attendance in terms of the senior officials when it comes to the actual hearing. The instruction which is in place is that within the department, we need at least to streamline that and make sure that branch heads relevant must be able at least to appear in these hearings. In terms of the plans and submission of that, the question of funding, it's unfortunate that the structuring and the funding has been done within the department, not necessarily that the appeals board or the advisory council or the SANVA can have their own budget and run their own budget. But we do engage with the appeals board, get to understand their activities, then within the means available, then they get allocated. Now, for instance, for this financial year 2021, they allocated something like 600,000 rand for their activities. Of course, we can then discuss with them. That's been the issue for this financial year. Yes, in the past, in terms of communication, lines of communication, there's been a challenge, but we are trying at least to streamline those and make sure that at least we do away with the issue of miscommunication and our response, which sometimes is late in terms of their requirements. The issue of the database, the challenge with the database where the appeals board find themselves dealing with the issue of the database is when people have failed to provide the necessary documentation and they want to be in the database and we're telling them to provide certain documentation. Then they claim that they've done that, then go to the appeals board. One or two examples in case somebody wants to be in the database, does not have a service certificate signed by the relevant association. And then if the appeals board believes and understands that the person is a military veteran, they want us to put the person in the database. For us, it is not possible. And of course, there's a line to follow in terms of us not being happy with that. It's the same with issues of housing, Chair, that our Act regulation policy, there are weaknesses. Why people find themselves mainly in housing in the appeals board, it's simple. Somebody wants to have a house renovated. We don't cover presently renovation of houses. And that becomes a challenge. And we don't cover presently in terms of the regulatory framework, the issue of emergency housing. It's not there. Then if then the appeals board asks us to do that, it's outside at least at the regulatory framework, then we find it difficult to do it. But of course, we are with these lessons learned, looking at the policy to kind of address some of those issues. And with the direction of the DM having been at least given the responsibility to take care of the appeals board, including the department, the DM has directed in terms of how then we streamline this communication. So we've been directed as a department that on a monthly basis, we need to at least meet with the appeals board and then be able at least to give a sense of where we are, whatever as a decision has been implemented or not implemented, and possible challenges. So this is what probably Chair out able to respond. Thanks.
Thank you so much, DM. If you may just deal with those that only you can deal with.
Chair and committee members, once again, thank you very much, and thank you to the Acting Director General for the information shared on the areas he has touched on. There are quite a number of issues, Chair, that we must talk to in relation to the business of the Military Veterans Appeal Board. But I want to prioritize the following for purposes of of today's meeting and what has arisen from the report of the board. There is a question which was raised by Honorable Member Maliake, wanting to know who appoints the board now that the board is the appeals board is delegated to the office of the deputy minister. I think it's an appropriate question. This matter actually was raised yesterday by the accounting officer, the acting DG, with me, because the board's term of office is ending at the end of this month, in the next 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. There are issues with respect to these delegations that are now under or in the office of the deputy minister. I have raised the observation with the minister that some of the delegations needs to be refined by looking at the business value chain of the delegations. As in this particular case, the office of the deputy minister is responsible for the appeals board, but what is the responsibility of the deputy minister's office with respect to what the Department of Military Veterans do with the reports and the recommendations of the appeals board, and how responsive is the department to those decisions of the appeals board. It is a responsibility which the office of the deputy minister must be able to account for to its logic conclusion, to the entire business value chain of that responsibility. And in this particular instance, the very establishment of the board, it's something which will be dealt with by both the office of the deputy minister and the minister, because the minister may decide to say the deputy minister's office must be responsible for the process of appointing a new board, but at the end of the day, everything else lies with the minister's office. All work done will then be submitted to the minister's office for the minister to ratify, or the minister to amend, or the minister to advise in whatever way the minister may feel the decisions taken should be improved. So that is what I would say in relation to the board, that the matter will be discussed between myself and the minister. The minister will indicate if the office of the deputy minister must run the process of appointing the new board and submit a report to her, or the office of the minister, because it is the one really that has the legal, advisors who will run the process of appointing the new board. And just to say to honorable members that I think we must be cautious to say the minister has delegated the responsibility of the Department of Military Veterans to the office of the deputy minister, because that is not the case. And I had that slip of tongue from the acting director general saying that the deputy minister's office is responsible for the department. The deputy minister's office is not responsible for the department. The minister has delegated specific tasks in the department to be executed under the supervision of the deputy minister's office. The other point which I thought I should touch on is with respect to the assistance and the resources provided to the appeals board. As Ms. Lamini indicated, we only, had our first meeting, last week, because these delegations were handed to the to the Office of the Deputy Minister only now in April. We had our first meeting last week. And one of the issues has been that the resources at the disposal of the board are very limiting to what the board can do and the board is able to do. But it is clear from the ministers, our engagement with the minister, that this is a function of really the very low resourcing of the Department of Military Veterans. And members of Parliament of the Portfolio Committee must take note of this, that the Department of Military Veterans is a department that is still 10 years later in the process of being established. It does not have the resources, it does not have the budget to put in place everything that it has. And it is in that context that the current support to the appeals board has been very modest. And in the minister's thinking with respect to, for instance, secretarial support to the appeals board, this was something that the minister thought it could be done by one set of people who would be responsible to both the appeals board's work and also the advisory council, these two entities of the Department of Military Veterans. For the simple reason that the budgets available are not allowing the department to give these entities the kind of conventional capacity that you find in the, in a normal, department. So there is that element that we must be aware of. In this financial year, the department's budget, as members are aware, it's about 683 million, and there's been now a letter from Treasury to say that budget must be cut with 20%. So we are really talking about an almost, near impossible assignment that the department must deliver on in relation to the resources that it has. Let me say, in relation to support to military veterans to access the appeals board, this matter, my view, Chair and committee members, should not be the responsibility of the board to be worrying about the military veterans who have appealed decisions of the department to present themselves or to appear before the appeals board. It should not be the responsibility of the appeals board. I want to believe that, and the DG is here, I want to believe that it is possible for the Department of Military Veterans to take responsibility where it is necessary to get these appellants to appear before the board. The logistics of these appellants appearing before the board should not be the responsibility of the board. It should be the responsibility of the department. But because it is in the nature of these things that not every appellant will necessarily be successful or is necessarily correct in his grievance against a decision that the department would have taken. And as a result, for me, it does appear reasonable to say the department must take responsibility to assist these people to appear before the appeals board, but it must be done on the basis of refunding them the monies that they would have used to appear before the appeals board. What I am raising here is that if we are saying that the department or even the appeals board must take the responsibility everywhere and at every instance where there is an appeal to the decision of the department, it may be an onerous responsibility to take, because some of this, it is in the nature of this work that some of these appeals or grievances may actually not factually justified and factually correct. And therefore, we need to take that into account, the extent to which and how these appellants must be assisted. The other point, of course, that I wanted to touch on is with respect to an independent budget of the appeals board, which Ms. Lamine has referred to. My view, as she has correctly pointed out, is that ideally we must have the board accessing a budget that is ring-fenced for its work. And that budget must be agreed about and upon right at the beginning of the financial year. How that how that is accounted for, those are matters I think left to the account officer to deal with. Of course, it is a matter of general rule that as far as management of resources are concerned, from where Treasury comes in on these matters, there is always, when money is transferred for spending elsewhere, the requisite accounting procedures and capacities that must be put in place. So when we look at how independent can the board be in relation to its budget, that aspect will have to be taken into account. But as I have said at the beginning, I think it is possible for the board to have a ring-fence budget that is agreed upon at the beginning of the year. And that budget must, of course, allow the appeals board to do its work effectively and efficiently. It should not constrain the board and make the board to actually fail military veterans, because it has been put there to advance administrative justice. So justice has to be seen to be done. The other point I want to touch on, Chair, and I'm aware that I must not take much of your time, is with respect to the communication lines between the board and the department. According to the Act, the board must play an advisory role to the Minister of Defense and military veterans. But here is the point which I think must be appreciated. The point that the appeals board, in its purpose, is very much part of the administrative work of the department, because it comes in to make sure that there is administrative justice. Where wrong decisions were taken, those should be corrected. For it to be directed to report to the minister creates a long-winded way of getting its work to be dealt with expeditiously, because it is administrative. So the interface of the board, to me, it is very clear that it has to be with the department, and it's got to be direct. And it should be at the appropriate level, because all decisions of the department, which can be found to be administratively illegal, the accounting officer is the person responsible. So the decisions of the appeals board must be directed to the accounting officer, very direct, and in an expeditious manner. Of course, the board should report to the minister periodically to share how it's in its mission, in its mandate. But with respect to the actual day-to-day work, the board must actually have direct interface with the department, because it is part of the administrative work of the department. The capacity of the board, the last point that I want to touch on, Chair, to say that the board needs really to be assisted with resources way above where things are at now. Because the board is a pack of members who are not full time. The secretary is only one person who has, of course, two people, one person and seconded to assist her. Clearly, it means that in design, what the department sought to provide is secretarial services to the board, not a secretariat, a body which has the capacity to do the paperwork for the board and get the board when it sits to deal with a product which has already been processed. By that, I mean the secretariat that we are talking about here, we are only talking about the secretary to the board. We are not talking about a body whose practice, as we speak, is to process these appeals as they come, sit down, process them, and craft recommendations to the board members, so that when the board members meet, if they meet once a month, they meet to deal with reports which have been processed by a secretariat, issues that have been looked into, and they only address themselves to the recommendations, whether the way the matters were processed was appropriate, is the recommendation or are the recommendations correct or not. In that way, it will make the board members not to sit until the wee hours of the morning, battling to clear a backlog of work which must be done by people who are on the job on a continuous basis, when they are actually only part-time members of the board. So we need to, in my view, look into the capacity of the secretary. If we can't increase the capacity of the secretary to make it a secretariat of the board, then the board sitting, the hours have to be extended and the allowances have to be accordingly, considered. Everything must make sense in that respect. That is the last point, Chair, I thought I should touch on. Thank you very much. Oh, Chair, just before you come in, there is a point, of course, which was raised in relation to the capacity of the board to provide legal advice. And I wanted to say, with respect to that concern raised by members, that there is something which we may want to come back to. When the Act was introduced in Parliament, there is something that in my view, may require a review, which is that under the powers and duties of the Appeals Board, Section 20 of the Act, 1, B, and C, they are saying that the board must serve as a legal advisory body to the minister and the DG of the department. I may be, wrong. My observation is that the two responsibilities do not sit well together. That the board should be an adjudicating body to decide on who is wrong and who is not, and at the same time play the role of advising one of the people who may be now a party to the complainants that appears before the board in the form of the Department of Military Veterans itself. If it's going to legally advising the department now and again, and at the same time adjudicating over decisions at times that the department takes, it may actually stretch the responsibilities of the board to a point where somebody can argue that there is a conflict in the functioning, in the duties that the board is executing. Thank you much.
Thank you so much, DM. Let me advise the committee that all board members are now present in this meeting. I welcome Mr. Cyril Moholo. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. I also welcome Advocate what is his name? Oh, Chifase, Mashudu Chifase, another member of the board. So that then completes the members of the board. That includes those that I had not seen, those that I had seen and acknowledged before or at the beginning of the meeting. So 5 board members are present. Now, you are welcome, colleagues. Right, colleagues, we are discussing the affairs of the Military Veterans Appeals Board. Minister, let us start with this, the amendment to the Act. We have been promised amendments to the Act, and they've not been coming. Let's check that in progress. That whenever you are ready to present them, you'll indicate that you are ready to present the amendments to the Act. It is at that time that you address the issues that you're talking about, which remains a concern as far as the Act is concerned. Let me leave that to you, all right, and the Minister. And then number 2, the regulations to the Act. The regulations give practical effect to the provisions of the Act. Those regulations have not been promulgated. I'm not too sure if they're ready, but have not been promulgated. And so in essence, the appeals board it's operating in a vacuum. And hence they had to come up with the rules and procedure document, and they've also produced their own terms of reference. Those are not public documents, okay, but they had to develop the terms of reference and the rules of procedure simply because they did not have the regulations, given to them or promulgated. All right. So if your department, you minister and the deputy minister and the minister could quickly attend to that, even if it means those terms of reference and the rules of procedure form the basis for the regulations going forward, and so be it. But we leave that to you. But the quicker you attend to the regulations, the better. All right, because it will clarify some of the gray areas that I'm picking up in the discussions. Okay, so that's 2. And then thirdly, the budget. I agree with you. The budget of the entity must be ring-fenced. It must be agreed upon right up front. If it is 600,000 rand, if it is 1 million, it must be agreed up front that this is the budget of the entity and be ring-fenced. Okay? The accountability on the spending doesn't shift from the accounting officer to them. It remains with the accounting office. It's just that they will be informed periodically as to the level of expenditure, as it were, so that they keep within the tranches that they would have decided upon, either quarterly or monthly, whatever it is. But the accountability, the point I want to make, the accountability remains with the accounting office. But at least they can monitor the spending of the budget allocated, technically allocated to them. I think there must be no debate about that. So we will be amending this budget. I think after the Minister of Finance has presented this budget, it will force department to amend their own budget. I want you, when you amend your own budget, to consider this aspect that I'm talking about. When you come to us with your amended budget, you must indicate where you have put the ring fence budget of this entity. So you must agree upfront as to how much will be allocated to things. We'll minute that so that we take note of it when we meet again. All right. And then the next point is directed to the acting Director General, and on the tools of trade, acting Director General Mgwebi, we can't debate that. It's a requirement that if you have assigned a person a responsibility, you have appointed him or her and assigned a responsibility, that team that you've put together must be given the necessary support. Part of that support is the tools of trade. So please, DM, just facilitate a dialogue, a discussion between the entity and the acting Director General on this. There must be an assessment of the tools of trade that the department can afford, right? And so that this is what is going to be provided to the entity. And I don't want that we don't that we miss that point, because it's going to affect their funding. So we don't want this entity to be disturbed or to be incapacitated by things that we can attend to easily. Okay, please, GDM, attend to that. And then 2, the capacity of the board. I think you've spoken to it, all right? In terms of support, you decide what form of support you provide to the board, but it must be adequate. It must enable them to perform their statutory responsibilities. All right, even if it means there's one designated person who is accountable to the board, right? Plus other 1 or 2 or 3 seconded staff who then form part of that secretariat. But at least they have one person who is dedicated to the board that they can call on at any time. The problem with not having someone dedicated is that you will not get the person when you need him or her. He will be out there doing other things, and when you meet, thinking, expecting him to deliver, you will get all sorts of excuses. I couldn't deliver on this and this and that because the accounting officer or my supervisor had allocated me other responsibilities to perform. All right, so that will paralyze the operations of the board. And yet, if you had one person, at least one dedicated, that person will then coordinate other staff members seconded to the board, so that by the time they meet as a board, all the work that we've just spoken about is pretty nicely packaged and placed on the table of the board. So we don't want to debate that. Please just attend to it. I agree with the way you are actually approaching it. And that will actually address even other gray areas like lack of support by the DMV. I mean, if they've taken a decision not to support the entity, it means that they will frustrate the entity, even in terms of supporting them with the secretarial staff. But if they have one dedicated, at least that person technically becomes an accounting officer of that secretarial support that is given to the board, so that we don't hamstring. We don't hamstring the board, and that's one. And then another item that I want the acting Director General to take note is when they reformulate their performance target, there must be a performance indicator that talks to how they support those entities in the department. I mean, right now they have only 2 targets, and they said they report targets. They only have 2 targets. They've reduced them to 2. As a result, the committee has not been able to, keep them on the targets that they've posted. But if there's one target, one or two that sticks to the entities, at least we have them down to those targets. So when they reformulate their targets, their performance indicators, there must be one under administration's program one that talks to the entities, because we can't create entities and still not support them. It's a dereliction of responsibilities. And then the last point that must be directed to the acting director general, again, is that by law you are required a director general to come back to the applicant in writing with the outcome within 80 days. And that has not been happening in the majority of cases. Right? And I want to give you notice, Director General, Acting Director General, that will monitor that you stick to the letter and the spirit and spirit of the law. That whoever has applied, has sent in his application, is getting his or her response or outcome of your deliberations on the applications within 30 days. Otherwise, and then you also in the outcome, you advise the person, the applicant, of the reason for your decision, and that the applicant has a right to appeal your decision. So that it's clear, you know, there is no doubt that if I'm aggrieved, or I'm not satisfied with the decision or outcome of the DMV, I still have another recourse, and that recourse is the appeals board. And so now we have to make the appeals board to advertise itself and to go all out. And yet in the outcome itself, you mentioned that would be clear to everyone that is aggrieved with the decision. And the last point to you, DM, is that you must refresh the board. I'm using this for a lack of a better word. The end of the term is expiring end of this month, and I think by now they should be in a picture as to whether their term will be extended or a new board will be appointed in its place, or some members will be returned back to the position. I think we're almost at the end of June, and I'm not too sure if there's any indication as to what happens end of June, because they should actually, I've seen their legacy report and a well-detailed report that they must then pass it over to the new board if for whatever reason they are not returned back to the board. These are matters, colleagues, that I've noted as matters that require to be attended to by both the DM and the Acting Director General. It will address the issues of claims where people have begged for their claims. I mean, you have done your responsibility, and now you must come back and you beg and all that. I mean, it's you know, yes, it doesn't augur well for my own dignity. I mean, really, if I beg for something that naturally is mine, it's not okay, and it will paralyze, it will demoralize the members of the board. And then DM, lastly, just attend to the lack of cooperation by the members of the members of the department, the officials in the department. That in some cases leads into default judgment being taken, and in some cases default judgments, and that the department finds it difficult or impractical or impossible, so to speak, to implement. But if they were cooperating and a right to look at the report, preliminary report, they would advise the entity, the appeals board, on the impracticability of the outcome should they go ahead. So we need to smoothen the relations between the appeals board. So that then would address the number of 463 of applicants of appeals to date, which is not a true reflection of the desire out there. I hope these colleagues takes into account all issues that have been raised. I will then open up in the event there is more that we have not covered. Colleagues?
Chair.
Yes, Mr. Mavuso, the chair.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just very, very quickly to say thank you for your closing comments on the first three members. For the sake of the record, it is important that the House knows that we have not received the kinds of tools of the trade that were indicated by the acting DG. He may have instructed people that they are not to hand, we haven't received that. The other thing, and I don't want to extend the meeting's discussion period, is the DM makes mention of refunding expenditures. You are dealing with people who, to a very large extent, have no money. Perhaps if we provide, unless there is a decision that's being taken here, I mean, the DM has a view about how this should be done, because some of the people may actually be fraudulent or unsuccessful applicants. That might be a stake. Perhaps as we sit with the DM, if this is not the final decision that there should be pre-funding, it could be pointed out that perhaps 9 out of 10 people who appeal succeed, or 8, whatever the number is. So perhaps that risk is worth looking at. The amounts of money are not much, but the real overriding concern would be that people who take the trouble to travel distances to appeal are not people going to play with money they don't have. They will not use, they often don't have the money. But it's a matter, if we're allowed, that can be discussed between the DM's office. And we're so grateful that the DM has intervened. A very positive spirit has come in, and would like to thresh this one out in the interest of the appellants.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mafuso. I think you are on this one. DM, we will not deal with the nitty-gritties. We leave it to the DM and the entity and the department to attend to it. But where you are right, it should remain the responsibility of the department to get the applicants to appear before the entity, the appeals board. But also, manje sekusetshenziswa lo mabonakude, and I'm sure that's another mechanism option that is available to the board to link up with the applicants. But obviously, we still need the applicant on the other side of the line will still need to be helped to link up with you so that you can deal with the matters. But I'm saying that will reduce the cost. But I'm leaving that to the DM to attend to it. I think it's an important point. Colleagues, any other? And then the issue of the doctorate and assessment, the assessment thereof must be attended to. We'll write back to the acting general to ask him to come back on these items on a particular date, even if he gives us a progress report, and we'll attend to them. All those that I've mentioned in my summary, we'll get back to him so that we keep track on the implementation on them. All right, any other comments, colleagues, on this?
Can I just make a comment? I don't know how to raise my hand. Chairperson, can I speak? Okay, thank you so much, Chair.
Ms. Kamini?
These are my closing remarks. I just want to
just before you close, let me just check first if we still have further comments from the members, so that in your comments you also deal with further comments. Colleagues?
Yes, Chairperson.
Right. Who is that? Maliake?
Yes, correct.
Right. Maliake Shelembe.
Thank you.
No, sorry. Before that, who else? So that was Mapanya. Mafanya. Mafanya.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Mafanya. And who else? All right. I only have 2 members so far. So that will then conclude the discussion on the side of the questions, stroke comments on the side of the members. Yes. Any other colleagues? All right. It doesn't look like there's any other hand. Let me take these 2 hands. Mr. Shelembe.
Thank you again, Chairperson. Chairperson, my observation here, it seems, the relationship between the appeals board and Department of Veterans, it is not, not good, I can say. Why I'm saying this now, look at Mr. Vuso is saying, there's something that's being said by DMV to be going all right. But on the other side, there's a feeling from the AB, the appeals board, that there is something that's not going all right. I would refer you, Chairperson, if you look on the 24th of May, 2017, Honorable Esau, the former MP, raised a question around the functioning of the appeals body and whether it was capacitated to deal with any appeal, as at that time. But there was no report submitted to the minister, at that time. It's something that is telling that, well, there is nothing that is happening. But my question now, why on the very same meeting that the Department of Military Veterans noted or said that the appeals board was functioning and was capacitated. But if you look what is happening today, it's not what was said on the 24th of May 2017. What is the DMO going to say? How is he going to strengthen the relationship between the two? If unfortunately, the acting director general was not available at the beginning of the meeting, that's why some of the questions were not answered. But now nothing's being said that some, executive officials from the DMV seems not to be, taking serious the appeals board. How can, because I'm not happy, Chairperson, that the relationship, if nothing complete as a resolution is taken to cement that relationship, surely, our military veterans who are struggling where they are right now will continue struggling until, another meeting comes and the same problem will come on. I'm referring that on the 24th of May, 2017, where Honorable Ese raised a question about that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mafanya.
Thank you very much, Chair. It's been a while. Chairperson, I think in relation to what the DM has said, that there is a possibility of a reduction of budget by 20%. It defeats the ends because already there's been an issue of low resourcing for the past 10 years with the Department of Military Veterans. Now, my concern is that the very same budget that is going to be cut is going to even affect the very discussions that we are having today, that there should be more insourcing on the part of the appeals board. Then secondly, on the issue of the expiry of the term of office of the appeals board, is that by this time we should be knowing that by the time we meet again, we should be meeting a new board, even if it is there, but it will be a new board altogether. So we should be knowing that there is an extension, or there will be people who will be coming on board. The other thing is that we have to consider that the DM has also taken the reins as from April now. Now we are dealing more of the past issues, the past deficiencies in terms of where the work that has got to be that has to be done by the appeals board. Now, I would suggest, Chair, that the DM, because now it seems that it's a new room that might even come up with something, because he also has a meeting, you should remember, that there were laxlands at the DMV itself. So there was so much that needed to be addressed. Then we gave the DM some time to rework or come up with some solutions to that. So it is best for the DM to consult or meet with the appeals board, so that by the time they come, they speak with one voice. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Honorable Mafanya. All right, colleagues, that then takes care of issues from our side. May I now invite Sis Nomosa to reflect on this. and any other member of the board who may want to make a comment before I invite the DM to close the discussion. And Ms. Nomosa?
Thank you very much, Chair. I know that my chairperson will reflect on just two issues. My first one, that indeed I am pleased about the fact that the committee is alerting the DMV in terms of their turnaround time in responding to the respondents, because this is very critical for the people who wait there, waiting for the outcome of their application when nothing is happening. So at some instances, do force us in terms of when we receive such appeals to say, can you, now I'm appealing that the DMV needs to take decision on this application that I have made. So, that will really assist. But I also want to draw this to the attention of the Deputy Minister, maybe also in the presence of the committee, that the DMV does need to sort out its relationship with the housing, to the housing department, because we find that houses are built for military veterans, but they remain unoccupied for a very long time until they are hijacked. By the time a military veteran has to go occupy that house, it's a struggle, it's war, it's guns now being shot and so on, because some people have decided to take advantage of this house, which is complete and just standing with no one occupying, when the military veteran is sleeping under the bridge or squatting somewhere. So if this really, the DMV can really try to sort out. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Sis Nomosa, the turnaround time of 30 days, that if we insist on it, it will also alleviate pressure on us as well, where the military veterans have to approach the chair and the committee members to attend to their issues, when in actual fact we have created structures to deal with them. We've created the DMV and we've created the appeals board. And we would know when you have handed down the decision that the matter has come to an end. And the Deputy Minister, any other member of the board? All right.
Chair.
Yes, Chair Mafus.
Really, just so grateful. I don't want to steal Sis Nomusa's thunder. She's got the responsibility for the day, but just to thank the chair and the honorable members for this sitting. The meeting has come almost 5 years too late. It has happened. Whoever comes in as the new board, they will have a set of notes and issues that they will tackle from an appeals board point of view. It is really important. I just want to say to other South Africans represented by yourselves here, it's disgraceful the way people talk about military veterans and allow me, the contempt with which many of their issues are regarded by people who are supposed to assist them. It's actually quite bad. Some of this spills out to the media, and the loser here is government, which will have provided funds, institutions, and really where necessary capacity for the people to be assisted. I'm talking like a slightly older person, but I feel that I don't want to waste more of your time, but sentiment that needs to be conveyed to the honorable members. It's not nice. People condemn our country, and that has paid the least attention to people who contributed to the liberation of this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bamavusa. Well said. Bamavusa, well said. Over to you, DM, to close the matter.
Chair, thank you very much once again. Let me appreciate the observations and comments, advice from members of the committee, and also the comments and views of the board members about how this work can be improved and it can be strengthened. I must say that to members of the committee that going through the documentation that was provided from the board, I was personally impressed with the professionalism that the board members went about their mandate. It's one body which very evidently had purposeful, members. They've done a good amount of work during the last 5 years. But as, of course, a body that was going through a curve, newly established, they have put a very strong foundation together. What we need to do is to build up on what they have done. The second point, Chair, that I want to say to honorable members is that we have agreed that the department will come back on a number of areas of concern to give quarterly reports. We will certainly include further discussions around the challenges that were identified today in that report, our next appearance before the committee. The further comments that you made, Chair, and the other members made were only, enriching views about what needs to be done and where we can improve. It's true that here and there you can see low hanging fruit. As far as this area of work is concerned, there are things that we will certainly put in the bag. We'll bag very quickly because the board members, much as they are on their way out, they will, and I'm sure they will make sure that they leave us with momentum to deal with some of these easy things that can be corrected. And I must just say to the chair of the board that from the ministry, we respectfully note his comments about the state of affairs as things are with respect to the tools of trade that were made available to the board members. And I must extend a word of apology to the board members for that. I see that the chair of the board is raising this point with a lot of circumspection. If things were he could afford it, he would have preferred not even to raise it. We did not want to put them in that kind of position. We will certainly make it a point to act responsibly to make sure that we do bring our side to the party, because they have done as the board. The department performance is going to improve. It's going to improve, Chair, because what I see is that you have a team of people on the one side who were caught up in pressures that were beyond their control. And I'm now talking the resources of the department. And whilst they were in that situation, the decisions that the board in some instances were taking, and where the department knew that it is for lack of information on the part of the board that they took the position that they have in the disputes that were brought before them. The department, you can see the impatience of the department. The department became impatient because they're saying, but this is not what policy is saying. But the board did not have that information that the complainant's grievance was actually not in line with what the policy dictates are providing for. And it's a department with very low levels of resources, elements of abuses in some areas. So you could see the body language of the department that it was almost becoming dysfunctional, but you can understand where the pressures were coming from on their part. We will correct that, because this is the appeals board. It's very much part of the success of the administrative work that the department is doing. When we talk outcomes, the appeals board work is embedded within the administrative work of the department, if we are talking outcomes. So there is, for me, a very, very strong basis for us to correct, to improve the level of collaboration between the department and the appeals board. The issue about the budgets, we will certainly come back to this, Chair, and we'll try and make it visible to yourselves how the revised budgets in relation to the appeals board have been dealt with. handled and explain everything with you, share everything with yourselves about how we'll go about the business of the appeals board in this financial year to its end. Thank you very much. I think that's it on my part. I am happy with what we've shared and what we've exchanged today. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, DM. What remains for me now is to thank Bama Vuso and the team, all the board members for the work done over the period of 5 years. It was such a respectable group of members. The report, I've gone through it last night, speaks volume of the way they went about, the professional way they went about, undertaking their responsibilities. We really thank you. It's a founding board. You did not have any previous experience to draw lessons from, but you have been able to discharge your responsibility diligently. That will remain together, 5 members, and you still remain 5, despite all the challenges. It's a testimony to the manner in which you treated your responsibilities. I really thank all of you. I thank DM for the commitments and the pledges you have made to try and step in where you can to alleviate the challenges that the board has had to encounter. I also thank you, Acting Director General, for the manner in which you have handled the matters. There have been accolades that if it was not because of your personality, some of the things would not have actually happened. But we don't want a board that is at the mercy of whoever is in power. In other words, that's another situation we would love. If the fellow who's in power doesn't want to cooperate with you, then there is a gulf between the DM, the department, and the public entity. It's the last thing we'd want to say. Thank you very much, Acting Director General, for being available to the board. With those remarks, and I would then release UDM and the members of the board, so that we then have to deal with the set of minutes that we have to approve today. Thank you so much, colleagues.
Chair, once again, thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. Colleagues, now we have a few sets of minutes that we have to approve today. There's 8 sets of minutes. I really beg your indulgence. I'm sure we'll be able to finish them within 20 minutes. Brian, just indicate which set we start with.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the set of the 1st of May we had dealt with in the meeting of the 5th of May. So the first one would be the minutes of the 5th of May.
Minutes of the 5th of May. All right, colleagues, can I get your if there are any amendments you want to effect to the minutes of the 6th of May, yeah?
5th, Chair.
Okay, 5th of May. I do not have these minutes with me. I thought I would have opened them by this time.
Chairperson, yes. Are we not screening them?
Yes. Is there a way of screening the minutes, of beaming them up, Brian?
All right, Chair.
Oh, sure. We are going to do that, Honorable Maki. I think you are right. I've been trying to page through all my emails as well. just bear with us for a minute or two whilst Brian is still screening them. I'm also trying to open them from my side as well.
Are they visible, Chair?
Not as yet, Brian. That's the 5th of May. Oh, yes, I also have that with me now. 5th of May, colleagues, they are now on the screen. And okay, Brian, let's do this. Page, I would say page 1, you just beam up the whole page, just to check if there are any corrections. Page 1, colleagues, any correction there? Page 2, Brian. Is your screen moving, Brian?
It's open, Chair.
Okay, it's not moving on my side. I will follow it on my gadget. All right, colleagues, page 2. Any correction?
Chairperson, there's nothing on my screen.
There's nothing on the screen. Now it has just appeared on my screen, Mr. Honorable Mike. Now, what's the situation on your side? All right, colleagues, anything on page 2, page 3, Brian?
Chair.
Yes, Ms. Lechwase?
I've been raising my hand. Maybe you did not notice me. In almost all the sets of the 3 meetings, I am not there. It's like a cut and paste, and I've not been absent in those virtual meetings.
Right. No, Brian will have to check that. You are saying there was never a time when you did not attend a meeting, a virtual meeting of the committee.
That I was in a doctor. I rejoined the meeting late. But looking at the set of meetings given before us, the first 3 sets of meetings, it's like a cut and paste. My name is not there.
No. Let's deal with each one of them, Honorable Jose. And on this one, you were present. Okay, we'll mark you present on this one. So you'll raise the same issue when we deal with the next minutes. Okay, so page 3, page 4. Page 4, the last page, Brian.
Yes.
Right. Thank you so much, colleagues. There being no correction. Yes, sir. Who's that? Mr. Market?
Can I be helped? I'm still not screening here.
Yeah, I think the problem is with your system, and IT, please attend to Mr. Market's system. He's not viewing, he's unable to view the screen. So sorry for that you are being disadvantaged, Honorable Market. Colleagues, do I take these minutes as true reflection of our discussion? Any objection? No objection, so accepted.
Thank you.
Can I get a mover so that we record that? A mover? Colleagues, can I get a mover? And a second.
I move, Chair.
Ms. Brickers moves. Any second?
Seconded, Chair.
Chabo seconds. Thank you very much. Can we go get to the second set? You do the same, Brian.
All right.
That's meeting of the 6th.
Yes, that is correct, Chair. I'm just busy uploading now.
It's a briefing by Armsco on their straight plan budget and a briefing by Castle Board on their annual plan and strat plan and budget. You're winning, Brian.
I'm sorry, Chair, my technology seems to be challenging me.
All right. You see, I have an advantage because I also can follow them on the phone, my inbox on the phone. So those colleagues who are not using their phones may and have their emails coming through their phones may do the same. Colleagues, you have read the minutes of the 6th. All right. Can I take them as read? Is there any correction? Is there any correction that you want to make on the minutes of the 6th? Mr. Kwase, is the same problem you reckon?
Yes, it is, Chair.
The same problem, please attend to it, Brian, and record her as present.
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. And all right. And any other correction? I've got the minutes before me. All right.
Chairperson?
Yes,
Chairperson?
Yes, Mr. Make?
Yeah, because it doesn't show on my screen. In one of the sets of minutes, maybe the last minutes or the second last, as I was going through it yesterday, there's somewhere where it is saying that corrections were made and adopted, something of that nature. I'm not quoting verbatim.
Okay.
So I was just thinking to myself, is that correct? Do we simply say that,